Madam Speaker, it is my honour today to deliver to this Parliament the 2016 budget. Madam Speaker, a nation sets its priorities and projects its values through its budget, through the policies and objectives that the budget supports, and through the statement the budget makes to the people. In developing the budget, a government must make hard decisions. It must balance many worthwhile needs against economic realities, in the same way every family and business in Fiji manages its finances. But a budget, Madam Speaker, is much more than a means of controlling money in and money out. I'm pleased, Madam Speaker, to share with this Parliament the ways that government is fashioning the budget to be an instrument to secure Fiji's future and to advance the values of equality, fairness, personal responsibility and good governance. The 2016 budget, Madam Speaker, makes a bold statement to the Fijian people. It says, Madam Speaker, your government believes in you. It will do everything that government can properly do to help you to be successful, to help you live a productive and balanced life, and to ensure your country stands as an equal to any other country in the world, large or small. We will do all we can to root out unfairness and to eliminate undue burdens, particularly on those least able to bear those burdens. We will build a society where people have more options and a greater opportunity to make their choices for their own good. We will not burden the Fijian people with low expectations, Madam Speaker, nor will we ask them to limit their horizons. On the contrary, we wish to clear the way for all Fijians to broaden their horizons to ambitions we have never seen. We will ask everyone to do their fair share, to play by the rules, and to understand by helping the neediest Fijians succeed, we are helping ourselves. Madam Speaker, a powerful wind is blowing through Fiji. In government, we strongly stress that a growing number of our citizens, in particular our youths, believe that Fiji is capable of anything. Indeed, this is what we expected to happen when we launched a solemn project to create a true democracy in which all Fijians were equal under the law. Madam Speaker, democracy rests on the idea that ordinary people are capable of extraordinary things. In a democratic society, the test of a government's strength lies not in the way it controls or prescribes to its people, but in what it demands of itself. The test of a government's competence lies not in the passive management of the status quo, but in its ability to push for something better. Not sometime in the future, but now. The wisdom of government lies not in making all decisions for its people, but in creating the conditions that allow the people to seize opportunities to improve themselves, to create, to build, to grow, and to contribute to building a nation that is more prosperous, more just, and more modern every day. This, Madam Speaker, is what the Fiji First Government attempts to do with the budget. We are rooted in the present, but focused unrelentingly on Fiji's future. Our actions of today, which is the future of yesterday, are very much focused on the tomorrow. Madam Speaker, in today's world, the advantages of modern communications and transportation are leveling the playing field among nations. We Fijians want to grab the respect we deserve in the world as a small and very able people with the skills, ingenuity, and courage to accomplish whatever we choose and to compete with the best of any other country. We have had a strong taste of that. Our military is well respected. We have produced world champion athletes. Our fashion designers are gaining acclaim. Our agricultural products are in demand, and our hospitality industry is second to none. And we want to consolidate on these strengths, build upon them, and position ourselves for the more. That must be our future, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, just as Fiji, a small island developing nation, demands a level playing field in the world, so we must also provide a level playing field at home for our citizens. We will seek to use the resources we have today, built up because of sound governance from 2007 under the Bainimarama government then, and the Fiji First government now, to secure this bright and fair future for all Fijians. Those resources include the revenue at government's disposal, the ingenuity and wisdom of government in managing those resources, and our unshakable belief that if we do our job wisely and well, the people of Fiji will create the future our country deserves. We have now enjoyed 4 years of economic growth of more than 4% and growth of 5% for only the 7th time in our history. We are enjoying unprecedented investment, both foreign and domestic. Vigorous engagement by our multilateral and bilateral partners is unprecedented. All this proof that people at home and abroad have confidence in this country. They believe we are on the right path, and they are betting on us to succeed. We should be proud, but this confidence is not a medal or a trophy to be polished and displayed. This confidence must be harnessed, and blessings of opportunity and economic growth shared. All Fijians deserve to share in this prosperity and stake their future on our success. The Fijian Bureau of Statistics recently completed its exercise on rebasing GDP to the year 2011. With the new base year, we now estimate the economy to have expanded by 5.3% in 2014 and 4.7% in 2013, following growth of 1.4% in 2012. The real good news is that growth is broad-based, with the exception of the forestry and logging sector. The transport, financial, hospitality services, wholesale and retail trade, construction, public administration and defense sectors are expected to contribute the most towards growth for 2015. The services industry is projected to dominate economic activity this year. Increased tourism is expected to spur further growth in the transport and hospitality sectors. We expect increased commercial banking and insurance activity and increased wireless telecommunication services. Improved consumer and business confidence should underpin growth in the wholesale and retail trade sector. We expect major contributions from construction and manufacturing activities. There are several major projects in addition to the ongoing upgrades by the Fiji Roads Authority, including Water Authority of Fiji's infrastructure upgrade projects, the Nandi International Airport upgrade, the Momi Bay Resort project, the Vunumbaka Tourism Development on Malolo Island, the Fijian Resort upgrade, the Nandi Bay Resort and Spa, and other real estate, manufacturing, industrial and housing projects. Additionally, gold production has increased and is expected to drive growth in the mining and quarrying sector. Madam Speaker, the successes of 2015 have created momentum and should carry over to 2016, when we expect the economy to grow by 3.5%, with the same industries driving the growth, and into 2017 and 2018, when the economy is forecast to grow by 3.1% in each year. Madam Speaker, indeed, the International Monetary Fund, or the IMF team that recently visited Fiji, expressed remarkable confidence in us, and the IMF's forecasts are even more positive than ours, which is the first time. They called Fiji's growth momentum, and I quote, exceptionally strong, and predicted that GDP would grow by 4.3% in 2015 and show continued momentum in 2016. They said, and I quote, risks to grow are largely related to external developments, unquote. But they were extremely bullish on the internal factors, the things that we can control through policies. They also said, and I quote, sustaining strong growth will depend on timely implementation of reforms to further bolster the business climate, raising private investment, and fostering private sector development, unquote. Madam Speaker, these words are music to our ears, because government's 2016 budget will do all those things: implement reforms, improve the business climate, increase private sector investment opportunities, and develop the private sector. The IMF has remarked that our debt to GDP ratio is healthy, and that we are using debt prudently to build infrastructure that will generate income and build the economy. Our overall debt is going down, which is one factor that allows us to reform our taxation system. Economic growth has also resulted predictably in increased revenues. Government revenues have risen from $1.4 billion in 2006 to a projected $2.6 billion in 2015. This is apart from the asset sales. Madam Speaker, government's broad fiscal policy remains focused on growing the economy through investment, while at the same time ensuring fiscal sustainability. This strategy ensures that resources are adequately provided towards priority and growth sectors such as infrastructure, education, health, agriculture, housing, and social protection. At the same time, targeted private sector participation and investment is supported and encouraged through a competitive investor-friendly taxation regime. The overarching objective is to ensure high-quality fiscal deficit and manageable debt level. Madam Speaker, in 2016, net deficit is set at 285.8 million, or 2.9% of the GDP. Total revenue is projected at 3.13 billion, and total expenditure at 3.41 billion. Government debt level is estimated to be around 48.1% of the GDP next year. Fiscal deficit for 2017 and 2018 is forecast at 2.5% and 2% of GDP, respectively. As a result, debt is expected to further reduce to around 48% of GDP in 2017 and 47.3% of GDP in 2018. Capital investments, Madam Speaker, provide returns not only to government but to all Fijians. The capital to operating expenditure mix has significantly improved in recent years, from a mere 14% in 2007 to 40% in 2016 budget. The expenditure mix in 2016 has been maintained at 60% operating and 40% capital. The higher the proportion of capital expenditure to total spending, the higher will be the quality of budget deficit. Our recent successful bond launch was another international show of confidence in Fiji. And Madam Speaker, I wish to once again thank you for holding a closed session of Parliament so that members of Parliament could learn about and discuss the bond sale confidentially. That action, Madam Speaker, alone saved Fiji $9 million in the buyback and approximately $400 million in interest payments over a period of 5 years. Madam Speaker, you may be aware that we had wanted to sell assets in 2014 and 2015. None of the asset sales in 2014 materialized. The primary reasons being that it was an election year, and the Fiji First government has been focused on getting the right strategic partner at the right price. These divestments are taking longer than expected, Madam Speaker. However, Madam Speaker, only yesterday afternoon, the Honourable Prime Minister signed the agreement for the partial divestment of shares in Fiji Ports Corporation Limited. Our superannuation fund, the FNPF, is for the first time venturing into infrastructure enterprise with a strategic partner, Aitken Spence, a listed Fortune 200 company with experience in port management in many other parts of the world. Aitken Spence has been recognized for 3 consecutive years by Forbes magazine as one of the world's most successfully publicly traded companies. The divestment of shares, Madam Speaker, plus some residual payments will net the Fijian government a total of approximately $100 million for 59% of the company. We intend to settle this matter next week on Friday, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this brings about a number of opportunities to develop Fiji as a key transshipment hub with internationally recognized port managers. As part of the sale agreement, the company with the new shareholders has to develop a new port development master plan, which will be also supported through technical assistance by the Asian Development Bank, with whom we have already signed an agreement. What is also unique, Madam Speaker, is that none of the landed assets have been sold to the company. The assets will still be owned by the Fijian government, but will be leased through a holding company to Fiji Ports Corporation Limited with its new shareholders. After all, such business partners, Madam Speaker, are not necessarily interested in owning real estate. They are interested in actual management services and the delivery of efficient port services. Madam Speaker, we expect to divest shares in FEA and AFL with the same approach next year. Negotiations are currently underway in respect of AFL, and expressions of interest for FEA will be assessed through interviews in the next few months. Madam Speaker, the 2016 national budget is designed to contribute to that growth and the overall economic health of the nation. It is notable for 3 main things. First, we'll continue to develop our infrastructure, our roads and jetties. airports and seaports, electoral grid and portable water supply. Failure to develop these basic resources will only hold our people back. But every dollar spent in these areas repays us many times over because they make such a huge difference in people's lives. They give people access to markets, information, better health, education, employment, and create sustainable livelihoods. Second, we'll continue to invest, Madam Speaker, in education and health. The modern Fiji will be a Fiji in which people have access to quality education to make the best decisions in their own lives and to contribute meaningfully to our economy and our society. They also must be stronger and healthier, with the ability to live long, productive lives that are free of preventable diseases. They must be able to get the kind of treatment that will help them overcome diseases and conditions that can be treated. Modern medicine and modern technology are rapidly changing our expectations for how well and how long we live, and that should include every Fijian. Thirdly, Madam Speaker, we'll organize government and its resources to ensure that everyone is treated fairly and equally, that government operates with more efficiency and transparency every day, and that our tax system becomes progressive and maximizes revenue without unduly burdening or favoring any individual sector. Madam Speaker, like the infrastructure of this country that was ignored for so many years, allowed to deteriorate where it existed, not expanded where it was needed, and managed with indolence and indifference for many years, so our government services need better direction, better organization, and better planning. The demands of a modern Fiji will only grow, and our civil servants need proper systems, infrastructure, aptitude, and attitude in order to do the work that the people of Fiji deserve and demand. Madam Speaker, I would like to turn our attention now first to these areas, to explain the ways government will be managed and financed and how that will benefit every Fijian. First, we wish to develop our human capital, that is the people we need to carry out the work of government at all levels. The reform of the civil service will create a Ministry of Civil Service that will set standards for organization, hiring, evaluation, discipline, and emoluments. It will be up to the individual ministries to manage their own personnel while adhering to these guidelines. This is a global best practice and is very much like systems used in the United States, Europe, Singapore, Japan, and Mauritius. The Public Service Commission will have one very important role: to recruit, hire, monitor, and evaluate government's permanent secretaries. Madam Speaker, the permanent secretaries are the senior non-political executives in government. They must have sector expertise, management, and leadership ability, acumen, and integrity. They will drive performance, and we must have the best people available to fill those positions, whether they are Fijians or professionals recruited from abroad. So I'm pleased to announce, Madam Speaker, that government has made progress with the civil service reforms. This is despite, and admittedly, the disappointingly very slow start to the project made by the World Bank. We have established the Civil Service Reform Management Unit, or CSRMU, that is supported by an international advisor, and all progress on reforms to date have been achieved through this unit. We continue to be disappointed by the lack of responsiveness of the World Bank to our needs, as they continue to send short-term missions to review and write reports which do not lead to expected action. Through the CSRMU, though, we have made some very real achievements. A review of the role and functions of the current Public Service Commission Ministry has been completed, along with analysis of the role of a central agency under the devolutions and detailed in our Constitution. As a result, the Public Service Commission Ministry is to be abolished, effective from 31st December 2015, and a new Ministry of Civil Service established from 1 January 2016. The new Ministry of Civil Service will be much leaner, with functions specifically designed to support ministries to carry out the constitutional responsibilities while maintaining central coordination of key areas to ensure consistency across the civil service. Some continuing functions will move to different ministries along with the relevant staff. For example, scholarships will move to TSLB. The volunteer scheme will move to the National Employment Center. The financing of government properties will move to the Ministry of Finance Asset Management Unit. Positions of the new Ministry of Civil Service will be advertised later this month for open merit selection. The 2016 budget includes funding for staff carrying out transition duties, funding for the staff of the new ministry, and funding for any remote possibility of redundancies, which may need to be paid if staff are not transferred to another ministry by 29 February 2016. Our other major achievement is the development of a guideline for ministries to fully implement open merit selection for all positions within the civil service. This guideline is being finalized and implementation will begin this month. This is a major change to the way we manage recruitment and selection and requires ministries to consider and apply fair, accountable, open merit techniques to all the recruitment and selection activities. Although merit has been a determining factor for some years now, the change here is the recruitment to treat internal and external applicants equally, with no preference to either, and the decision of appointment or transfer promotion to be made only on the actual requirements of the job. This will require major training for staff, for which significant resources have been allocated in this budget. Also this year, we provided funds to engage an independent international recruitment company to support the Public Service Commission in their recruitment and selection of permanent secretaries. Together, they have developed a rigorous process which will ensure that we are able to engage high-performing executives to lead our civil service through the coming period of change and improve professionalism and service to the public. A major shift in our approach towards managing permanent secretaries is that the budget for the salaries will be managed by the Public Service Commission, enabling transparency and accountability for this key position. Looking forward, we have provided the CSRMU with $1 million in 2016 to enable them to continue to work with ministries to drive and achieve our vision of reform. The CSRMU will engage with specialists to develop a comprehensive, tailored induction program for our new permanent secretaries to ensure that they are fully equipped for the challenging roles ahead. Central guidelines are being developed on core skills training and on discipline and grievance management. Ministries are preparing requests for assistance to restructure and reform themselves in order to meet the new mandates. Government, through the CSRMU, will also look to other donors for assistance with specific activities as they are identified. Madam Speaker, we are not reluctant to bring in skilled administrators from abroad for these positions. To the contrary, we embrace the idea when doing so will yield the best talent to serve the people. Countries such as Singapore and Mauritius have had great success in this way. In fact, Madam Speaker, we see great advantage in bringing to Fiji accomplished professionals with skills and experience that may not have been available here. These individuals will not only give us sound administration for today, but they will also help develop our own local Fijian cadre of skilled professionals in each ministry where they work. We, Madam Speaker, are investing in our future. We will also continue to invest more heavily in IT systems. We have not been satisfied with the progress so far, with the speed, which has been to our standards and expectations. But we will continue to pursue the most modern systems possible, and we believe that experience from outside will also help accelerate the process. The national switch in Fiji Pay, which has been talked about for nearly 2 years and which has been delayed, will now be implemented by the first quarter of next year as a result of numerous consultations with relevant stakeholders. And we will be tabling a law for the national switch to ensure that the interests of all stakeholders are protected and compliant with financial regulations. Madam Speaker, we will also realign the process of procurement for all of government to make it more efficient, reliable and transparent. Too often, appropriated funds have been left unspent and projects have been delayed because ministries and offices have not been able to lay all the groundwork and follow all the necessary steps. This has been a particular problem with capital projects, where the delays are caused not because of a lack of funds or government will, but simply because the ministries have lacked the experience and technical expertise or have not carried out the necessary...
Order. Please, honourable members, this budget speech is unlike any other speech. It is the delivery of a pre-printed document, and responses are impossible in this process. Therefore, interjections are inappropriate. Please, the nation wants to hear the budget. I beg your indulgence. Thank you. Honourable Minister, please continue.
I'll read the paragraph again, Madam Speaker.
Thank you.
Madam Speaker, we'll also realign the process of procurement for all of government to make it more efficient and reliable. Too often, Madam Speaker, appropriate funds have been left unspent and projects have been delayed because ministries and offices have not been able to lay all the groundwork and follow all the necessary steps. This has been a particular problem with capital projects, where the delays are caused not because of a lack of funds or government will, but simply because the ministries have lacked the expertise and technical experience or have not carried out the necessary preliminary groundworks to take the project from beginning to end. For example, Madam Speaker, the new police post in Benga, which has been promised for 2 years, remains unbuilt because the land for the post has never been secured and the community has not reached a consensus about the location of the facility. Ministries and agencies' submissions for capital projects, in particular, Madam Speaker, now will need to meet a minimum threshold requirement of readiness before they are approved. Sometimes ministries become aspirational as opposed to what the reality is on the ground. We have kept this in mind, Madam Speaker, as we set aside funds to help Itauke landowners develop the land. We have received more than 30 proposals so far, but we are determined to do this right. We must make sure that the projects are properly planned and the competent project management teams are in place to see the project through. These things cannot be rushed, Madam Speaker. This is the first time we're doing such a thing, and we need to get it right. We have had too many false starts in Fiji, Madam Speaker, right from independence. Too many unfulfilled promises, too many plans that turned out to be little more than dreams. These Itauke landowners, Madam Speaker, deserve better, and we will give it to them. Madam Speaker, the way we have been procuring medicines and medical supplies has also suffered from this lack of expertise. And we are suffering because we've been buying many end-of-life products. These medications and treatments lose their potency before they can be used, and they have to be discarded at great cost to the taxpayer and the patients who might need them. We will carry out a number of reforms in procuring medicines and resources from which they are to be purchased, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'm happy to announce that with the help from the Australian Government, we will at the end of this month begin work with international procurement specialists to develop a national procurement strategy and policy. In fact, 2 of the specialists have already been to carry out some preliminary works. An important component of this work will be to review and improve procurement regulations and build in-house capacity on procurement best practices. Madam Speaker, we will from next week also centralize the coordination of all capital construction through a specialist division in the Ministry of Finance. From 2016, we will also require all public sector tenderers and parties submitting expressions of interest to be fully tax compliant. To give an example, Madam Speaker, we have capital projects that are given to, for example, the Ministry of Fisheries or Health. Their job is to deliver medical services. Their job is not to build hospitals. But this has been the practice since independence. We rely on people who are trained in one particular area to go and work in another area. This will now be specialized and centralized.